A ski to you all and a happy Friday. Welcome in to another edition of the PHNX D-Back Show. Shout out to OG's Brands, the official sponsor of Flavoring Fridays. Head on over to ogsbrands.com to see their full lineup, including their two newest gummies, the OG's Naturals and the Big OG's, and find out where you can purchase. Well, speaking of having a good time with our friends at OG's, we're excited to have a good time with a habitual line stepper here around the MLB world. It's our friend Mike Ferrin from MLB Network Radio. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
There is, if you don't think there's a line, you can never cross it.
That's very true. That's very true. That's the way that both of us get away with all of that stuff. But great to see you. And of course, you know, we're very excited here covering this Diamondbacks team with the changes that they've made this offseason, the additions that they've made. So we were just curious as to your thoughts on where they stand right now in the National League. We had an interesting kind of PECOTA projections that kind of said the Diamondbacks could be the fourth best team in the National League potentially.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. You know, I think I think they are a better team now than the one that went to the World Series, at least in terms of overall talent. Now, does that mean they're going to get back there again? I mean, I think what we saw in the postseason last year and what happened with them is a pretty good indicator that, you know, the postseason's a crapshoot and you don't really know what's going to happen. But you want to create as much depth and as many possibilities for you to have success as possible. And I think they're a better roster right now. I mean, I think one of the more unheralded signings of the winter was Eduardo Rodriguez. He's really going to stabilize that rotation. He's a very good pitcher. I think they've addressed third base significantly with the trade for Eugenio Suarez. Bringing back Gurriel was a big deal. Adding Pederson to the mix, the DH slot is going to prove, I think, a really strong move against right-handed pitching in particular, and it's a pretty right-handed division on the mound right now. So I like what they've done. I wish they were adding a little bit to the bullpen. But sure. Other than that, I think that's where they're at right now is pretty positive.
Mike, there was just a report from Mark Feinstein that came out within the last hour or so that the Diamondbacks were maybe looking at adding another right-handed hitter to pair with Joc Pederson at DH. Tommy Pham was mentioned as one of the names. Of course, that would be the narratives there would be it'd really be something if that happened. How urgent of a need do you think that is for the Diamondbacks to, obviously Joc Pederson, as you mentioned, an asset against righties, a little bit less so against lefties?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be nice to have, well, first of all, like, are we talking about two fantasy football leagues then in the clubhouse? Is that what's going to have to happen? We're gonna do
I think we have to be, right?
Two, if it happens, do we run the risk of Montilla running naked through my neighborhood because he's been campaigning for Pham to come back all winter?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll make a special trip over to your neighborhood for sure. It's just jokes, Mike. The jokes. There's so many jokes.
There's so many. Season. Yeah, I mean. I really think it would slap the taste out of the rest of the division's mouth. No, listen, I say that
you
in
did
jest.
It. You said the thing.
I love Tommy Pham. I'm a huge Tommy Pham guy and always have been. And I think we talked about it even when they acquired him last summer. And I can't remember if it was on this or offline. The dude is just an absolute pro. He prepares the right way. He's a tremendous teammate.
Yeah.
He takes care of young players. Like, just having that guy in the mix is really good. And I think the one thing that Tommy's been faced with this winter is he wants to play. And unless the Diamondbacks are going to, move another outfielder, I don't know how much regular playing time there is for him or any of the other names that were mentioned.
Yeah.
So, like, the other two names that came up were Adam Duvall, who hits lefties well, has real power, kind of a low on base guy, but is a really good defensive outfielder and fits that what the Diamondbacks like in terms of having a defender. And Randal Grichuk, who's a lefty masher who doesn't walk and probably swings and misses too much, but if you're limiting him against left-handers and playing on the corners, he's got a lot of value and he can run. So I think those three names make sense if you're trying to build out a deeper roster. It makes me wonder if they did do something like that, if they have something else brewing to try and address the bullpen via trade with some of what they still have in terms of 40-man outfield depth. Yeah. That's kind of where my head went to with some of that. Yeah. But I think in terms of improving the overall roster, I think it'd be a great move. I don't think you can have enough good offensive players. And right now they have a pretty good offense, and adding one of those righties to the mix would make them that much more potent. I mean, I think all three of them have great qualities. If the numbers were all equal and I could choose one of the three, I would choose Pham for a lot of the intangible reasons. But I don't think you can go wrong with Duvall either. And if you're putting Grichuk in the right role, I think he is. I think he can be a real nice role player for you too.
I love the addition of Pham last year. I thought that when he came to this team, there was just some, there was something about him that kind of, it felt like he toughened the team up a little bit, right? And I mean, again, he's a veteran that's been around, and it feels like sometimes the Diamondbacks were a team that kind of needed a little bit of an edge. It felt like adding him there late, along with the additions to the bullpen, obviously, which were probably the bigger key, was a big thing that kind of drove them there in the playoffs. But without Tommy Pham being added to this team, or without any further moves being done, we were kind of surprised to see that the Diamondbacks were still in the market for a right-handed bat. What are your thoughts on what they've done this offseason overall? Like, do you think that they accomplished essentially the goal that they were looking to go out there and accomplish?
Yeah, I feel like again, the bullpen is the one spot that really hasn't been touched as much as I thought it might be. I thought there might be another reliever. It wasn't the best fit in terms of relief markets, right. At least at the high end for them. But there always could be trades that they proved last year can be addressed during the season and fixed as well. I mean, I think, I go back to talking to the front office about this back in 2017 when I was working there. And, they were quick to point out when this group was in Boston's front office in 2013, they were on like their third or fourth closer at the end of the year when Koji Uehara took over. So, I mean, bullpens evolve over the course of a season. So I guess I'm a little less concerned about that. But I think they've addressed a lot of what they need. I mean, I think the other part in terms of the external additions that they've made is that they're really quality clubhouse guys. I mean, Pederson has a great reputation as a teammate. Yeah. Eugenio Suarez is the king of good vibes only. I know Scott Service loved him in Seattle, and his teammates loved him there. And he's just he's a really fun, good player to have around. And Eduardo Rodriguez is just a really good person, I think, and at least in my dealings with him. And so I think they have done a good job of identifying not just talented players, but good players that are professional in their preparation, that have good makeup. And I think, Joc brings a different edge than Tommy Pham does, but that accomplishes the same thing, right? So one of the things I always like to talk about is everybody wants to win, right? You hear this, well, this guy wants to win. Yeah, everybody wants to win, but not everybody wants to compete. And that's, I think, the thing that makes guys like Pederson and Pham good on rosters, and why so many of their teams make the postseason or make postseason runs is because they love the competition. And so I think that's a real benefit. I think that's a real big addition, but with Pederson in that regard, not to mention he crushes righties, and in a division that's going to be pretty right-handed, that should be looked at as being significant.
Mike, I know you're big on prospects in general. Jordan Lawlar, what are your expectations for him in 2024? Obviously, the talent is tremendous. He struggled quite a bit in his first taste of the majors last year. Maybe he got that opportunity a little bit before he was ready for it. What are you expecting from him in 2024?
What's so funny is that I heard in spring training last year from D-backs personnel that they felt like his bat was so far ahead of his glove that they were kind of concerned about that, right? That it was going to force the issue. And I think what we saw, and what in talking to multiple scouts, in the organization about him. What they felt like was that the defense just doesn't look the way it's supposed to, but he makes all the plays. So it's like weird arm strokes and maybe playing on the run a little bit. And, we heard these same things about Troy Tulowitzki, right? And Tulo was a really good defender. That's not to say that Jordan Lawlar's, heck, if Jordan has Troy Tulowitzki's career, I think everybody would sign up for it. But that same kind of, those criticisms sometimes come around with defensive players who are good at it, but don't necessarily look the part. It was clear that he needed more repetition against major league quality pitching last year, but there wasn't really going to be that opportunity for it with them in a pennant race. And that, I think, was, I think that in the end isn't a big surprise. If you hoped that he was going to come up and provide a boost like what Xander Bogaerts did for that Red Sox team in 2013, I think that's something you're hoping for, but not every player can do that. And I think the gap between AAA and the big leagues is far more significant now than it was 10 plus years ago. So there were adjustments that need to be made. The question is, when do they want those adjustments to take place? Is it best served for him to go to Reno early in the season, rake, and then come up and deal with the 100 or so plate appearances of him trying to get his feet wet at the big league level, knowing that he's had already a little taste of it? Is it better to do that from opening day and slide Geraldo Perdomo into more of a super utility role, which I think he'd thrive in? I mean, make no mistake, Perdomo is a really important guy in that clubhouse, and I think that they view him as having a significant role, but Lawlar's a shortstop, and that's where he's going to play. Yeah. And that I think, those are ideal world situations. The reality of it is there's probably going to be an injury to someone at some point that forces their hand on that. And that's what will probably bring Lawlar to the big leagues to stay when that happens. But I think he's got a chance to be an impactful offensive player at one of the best defensive positions, or the most important defensive positions on the field.
Well, last year they had the ability to kind of plug him in over there at third base due to the fact that they didn't have a true solution at third base. But now with Gino being added, it does feel like they had a guy that played 162 games last season. So that, which will never happen in a Torey Lovullo lineup, but they have their everyday regular third baseman. So it feels a bit there like Lawlar, that kind of limits him to either a backup role or being called up when. No,
Lawlar's not going to back up anywhere.
Right.
If
that's what I'm
Lawlar's
saying.
on the team, he's playing every day.
Right.
Perdomo would be the backup and Lawlar would be the starter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts about Eugenio Suarez, by the way? We're talking about the PECOTA projections kind of hating him a little bit next year. They do not have him projected to have a very good season. But what are your thoughts on how he solves that problem at third base for them and what he's possibly going to be for this team?
Well, you don't have to clear a very high bar to be better than the third base production they got a year ago. I think if you're comparing it year over year, he's going to be an improvement. Listen, do you want to focus on the things that Suarez does well, or do you want to focus on the things that are going to be frustrating at times? Because the things he does well is he hits the ball out of the ballpark and he's a solid average defender at third base. Like, those are really good qualities to have. The biggest flaw against him is that he's going to strike out and he's starting to age a little bit. He's moving from a difficult environment for right-handed pull hitters to a slightly less difficult environment for right-handed pull hitters. Chase Field isn't your older brother's Chase Field in the pre-Humidor days. But I think he certainly is going to provide power. He's not going to be counted on to be necessarily that cleanup hitter. I'm not sure exactly how Torey's looking at his lineup now, but I would think that he probably hits in the 5th or the 6th spot, and that probably takes a little bit of pressure off him too. He's got a good idea of what to do with men on base. He's going to be an absolute professional in the way that he goes about his business. And he's going to be a good influence on the other players in the clubhouse, especially the young guys, which I think is important. He's the fun uncle, right? So you need to have guys like that around, and that's Gino. The projections, remember, those are like weighted mean projections, and I think Zips had him right around a league average performer, right? They had him right around 2 WAR, which is about what he did last year. And if you're able to get that out of him and say, weighted runs created plus around 100 or maybe a tick above, that's a huge upgrade over what they had last year, and that's a pretty solid player overall. So I think, there are things that will frustrate at times, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot of dongs and a lot of laughs in the dugout with him.
Mike, we did our highly anticipated tier rankings of the various Cactus League ballparks the other day on the show. We had some fun with that. I think we all know Salt River Fields is at the top. Sloan Park is certainly up there as well. I'm curious for you, maybe it's not, I don't know. Are there ballparks for you that are maybe overrated, underrated? Do you have opinions on these kinds of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing I can say about Sloan Park is almost all the seats are in the shade. Like, that's the part that I think is really good.
Which is big. I think that's big around here.
There are some things about Sloan Park that I really don't like the fact that the home clubhouse is about a quarter of a mile from the field and that they have to walk across every day.
I hate that so much.
Like, I don't think the players like it either, but it was done to kind of spare expense. I think there's, it's fine. It's newish. It's fine. It looks like new construction. It does its job, but it's a comfortable place to watch a game. I mean, I think more than anything from a fan standpoint, like the shade should not be discounted. I mean, it's one of, like if your assignment during the AFL, which is when I spend most of the time in seats in these places during the fall league, is between going to Sloan Park or to go to Camelback Ranch, I'm going to choose Sloan Park every day and twice on Sundays because I don't want skin cancer. And that's the big problem at Camelback Ranch is it's a beautiful facility, but everything is in the sun, right? Like, it's really tough. Yeah. I'll tell you what, the one that I think is really underrated. Like, I love Scottsdale Stadium. It's old school. I like, Tempe Diablo's a little bit run down. I know they're going to try and make some improvements to it, but I love the buttes in the background. I think the one that's underrated is Maryville. I think that's a great ballpark to see a game. It generally is pretty inexpensive to go to as well. It's really the most centrally located of any of the facilities. I really like Maryville. I love going to games there. So that's the one that I would say is underrated. And then the ones that are at the top of the list, you're right. I mean, Salt River is one for me. Scottsdale Stadium is probably number 2. I really like the Peoria Sports Complex too. I would put that up there on the list.
Derek can't stand it. Derek lives right by it, and he can't stand it.
It is the closest one to me, and I do not. I'm not a fan.
Why?
Mostly, I don't feel like when you go to it that they have done enough to keep up with how the spring training ballparks have changed. Like, there is a way to keep the old school feel to it, like you're talking about with Scottsdale, and still have some amenities, still have some vendors out there. Like, the food choices aren't great. There's just not a lot. Like, I don't know. I do enjoy the environments in some of the other ballparks, especially Scottsdale. I really like the environment, and that's all Giants fans, right? Like, when you go to a game there, but that's what I think is incredible is I think like it's rare at some of the spring training games that you go to that the crowd is actually really into the game and they're watching it and they are cheering even in the 6th and 7th innings and such. And like, the only place I feel like I've ever seen that is at Scottsdale. So I mean, it's a fun environment to be a part of. I take all that into consideration.
Scottsdale is like the last real, like, this is what old spring training felt like. I mean, even Hohokam doesn't have quite that feel anymore to it, even though I do love the big steps up like they have at that in Tempe Diablo, but maybe it's because they've poured a fair amount of money into Scottsdale. I think those criticisms of Peoria are fair. I don't tend to eat at the ballpark very often, so I guess I'm not in line on the concessions.
That's all I go there for.
I find it I'm kidding. I think from a comfort standpoint, I find it to be a really comfortable place to watch a game with good sight lines, and there's a good combination of seats with backs and seat without, so you can move around. But yeah, Scottsdale Stadium is like, if you want to tell people, like, it's the, I don't know that you can put a Wrigley or Fenway on it necessarily, but it is definitely the most venerable of the Arizona spring training locations.
We actually brought you on here for a very specific reason, Mike. We really we were beating around the bush. We just have one question to ask you, and that is, what did you do to the baseball barbicast? Huh? What did you? My guys just disappeared.
It was thriving. Suddenly, Mike Ferrin steps in and does this cool prospect barbicast thing with them on Wednesdays, and then all of a sudden it disappears. Mike, what happened? What did you do?
I've been at Sirius for 17 years. Let's just say I have a lot of pull.
We'll learn not to mess with you. Sorry. We apologize for any jokes we made.
So you guys know that I'm wearing my Barbercast hat. You made
Oh yeah, we see that.
So Jake and Jordan, I have literally known since they were in high school. I was living in DC when they were DC high schoolers. They are my unwanted nephews. I love them dearly.
They're the best.
Let's just say we were sad to see them leave the Sirius XM family. I know it was not an easy decision for them, but what they have coming is going to be really good for them.
That's exciting.
And really good for their listeners and their readers. So I know what's next. I can't say it, but it's a real positive development for them. And that I'm most excited about because they're tremendous advocates for the game. They go about it in such different ways. You know, Jake is a lovable goof, but he also played at a high enough level that he can have conversations with players that not a lot of other reporters can.
Right.
Sure. And Jordan is incredibly studious. And so I think where they're going to go next, my hope is that they're big hits and that they continue to raise their profile because I think they're important for baseball because of the way they love it. They're not afraid to ignore the warts.
Right.
But they don't focus on the warts. You know what I mean? And that I really appreciate.
Yeah. We're huge fans of theirs. We're huge fans of yours. But if they come up missing, we're going to testify against you in court. I'm just putting that out there right now.
Mike, we never in Indiana.
Mike, we appreciate you stopping by, man. Thank you so much for your knowledge and your time.
My pleasure, boys. We'll see you soon.
All right,
thanks,
buddy.
Mike.
He gets me hyped for spring training. Like just talking to Mike gets me excited for spring training, but him bringing up those ballparks and maybe some of the negative comments I might have said about them really makes me just want these clouds to go away and want next week to get here. Spring training.
Clouds? Oh, I guess they did. Wow,
they did
came
kind
back.
of back. Spring training.
It is supposed to rain. It is supposed to rain tomorrow.
Yeah, we need that all gone.
Right. Tomorrow, there's another rain day.
Yeah, we've made a decision. We don't want to be out at muddy fields, out at Salt River Field. So let's make sure that all gets cleaned up. But big shout out to Mike. He is the best. Big shout out to you guys as well for being here. If you're here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when any of our wonderful shows go live. Leave us a thumbs up, a little like. We appreciate that as well. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, we appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed over there. Make sure you leave us a review. We really appreciate those 5-star reviews. Of course, great way for you to get a 5-star review on your home is for you to update your flooring, and that is with our friends at Empire Today. Empire Today will get you all that you need at home with their easy, convenient shopping at home kind of model here, because they don't want you to have to come into a store, showroom, any of that to have to check out your flooring. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection, and they also have their virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how the new floors will look in any space. It's easy. All you got to do is snap a picture of a room, and of course you can see how their samples will look, all the different styles, everything in any space in your home. They do pride themselves on their convenient shop at home service. They also service their own warranty. So if an issue does arise, all you have to do is call Empire and they will take care of it for you. You can schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use promo code PHNX. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. And Jesse, we also have an exciting new sponsor, by the way, a partner from Prize Picks, which is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers, not you against other people. Instead of battling thousands of other players, you just got to pick more or less for 2 to 6 players. You get more than or less than on stats. Go there. Are we going to get more hits or less hits than one for a baseball player, that kind of thing? Then all you got to do is watch the winnings roll in. With the big game right around the corner, Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to turn every game-changing moment into 100 times your money. With as little as 4 correct picks, you can turn $10 into $1,000. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds, and we're busy guys. Sometimes you got to get that stuff done quickly. Wow. See, Jesse used to do a podcast that was like 54 seconds long. So
I did.
All right. So you get.
I need to dig up an episode.
You do.
You'd love it.
Basically, you can make your picks in the time listening to one episode.
Yes. It was me giving like the daily, the biggest happenings in Major League Baseball every single day, and if you're asking why 54 seconds, I don't really have a good answer to that question.
No.
It just felt right.
We told him yesterday it should have been 48
me.
seconds. It was a 48 state.
And,
that kind of thing would have been cool. But
yeah,
no, he doesn't listen to us. Retroactive young Jesse will not listen to us. But again, you can get that knowledge from Jesse and then use it on your prize picks. So just go to prizepicks.com/PHNX and use code PHNX for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/PHNX and use code PHNX. Daily fantasy sports made easy.
You think Mike Ferrin is going to kill our show just like he did Baseball Barbecash? Should we be concerned? Should we have not had him on the show today?
I'm concerned that I started off the interview by calling him a habitual line stepper because I felt like that got things off on the wrong foot. But
he loved it. I don't think I've ever seen Mike laugh quite like that. That was incredible.
Well, I mean, there is another way to make Mike laugh, and it could be the same thing that makes me laugh. We discussed it a little bit there, but according to this tweet from Mark Feinstein, the Arizona Diamondbacks are looking to add a right-handed hitter to pair at DH with Joc Pederson. Per sources, Randal Grichuk, Tommy Pham, and Adam Duvall among the candidates. Grichuk had a .995 OPS versus left-handed pitching in 2023, which very much feeds families, compared to, say, 787 for Pham and 756 for Duvall. But obviously, you guys all know Tommy Pham is my selection, just for the jokes. I mean, the jokes write themselves. Like he said, the Diamondbacks are going to slap the taste out of the division. That was a good line.
I mean, all jokes aside, I feel like we should have, at least for a moment, like a serious conversation of like they would get along, right?
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
Joc Pederson and Tommy Pham.
Oh, absolutely.
It would probably be fine.
I've slapped my friends before. All right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've slapped each other every day.
I gave Jesse a chance to hit me with a baseball bat, and he gingerly tapped me. But, I mean, there is opportunities at times to hit your friends and still like them afterwards. But I think the biggest thing he said there is they are professionals, and they've put this behind them way more than we have. We get our jokes in because the internet is forever, and we're never going to forget this. And it's funny. It is funny. It's a funny concept that two players in a sport of baseball were in a fantasy football league together, and a transaction caused one of them to slap the other one. Which
it wasn't only that though. I was watching. Tommy did an interview on Foul Territory. I'm not sure if this was. It was probably at some point in 2023. He kind of told the whole story. And it wasn't just the fantasy football thing. It was also that they had a group chat for their fantasy football league.
Yeah, it was the trash talking.
And Joc Pederson apparently put a GIF in the group chat that made fun of the San Diego Padres, the team that Tommy was playing for at the time. And Tommy basically said, like, dude, I don't know you like that. Like, we don't know each other that well for you to be making these kinds of jokes, which I think we all can have an appreciation for.
Happens to me every single day on Twitter.
Yeah,
every single day on Twitter.
Yeah. So there was a little bit more to the story there,
Sure.
But I think we all can probably come to terms with the fact that this would be fine if it happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Tommy Pham, from a distance can be someone who people aren't so sure about or whatnot, right? Man. I mean, he's been a bit of a polarizing personality in the game for a while, but once you get a little bit closer to him and get to know him,
it's hard
universally,
not to love him.
We hear things like what Mike said about him just being, a tremendous teammate, someone who really looks out for people around him, and as Mike said, also is a very, very intense competitor, and I think that's something that Joc is as well. And I am very confident that if they were in the same clubhouse, they would be able to kind of bond over that and, put some of those things behind them.
I'm sure they already have. I'm sure they've already had. I doubt this would be the first time they've interacted or had discussions since that happened. But it's also,
I don't know. I don't know for sure. But if they were on the same team, be like, all right, like at this point, we are going to get to the point where we know each other better. And I don't think it would take very long for them to get past that.
The way me and Jesse squashed our beef when we were opposing D-backs podcasts. We had to come together.
Absolutely.
There was an arbitration meeting. Someone had to mediate it. There was a lot there. Charles Woodall Pike is absolutely right. He said the power of friendship is greater than old fantasy football beefs. You're goddamn right they are. I will say that, like, when I was talking about that edge that Tommy Pham brought to this team last year, it was kind of what something like Damon had addressed several times, very comically, but still addressed, was that it felt like the Diamondbacks were just getting too buddy-buddy with some of these teams. This was around when, the Diamondbacks were appearing on Mookie Betts' podcast, and everybody was like, power of friendship started to leak out beyond the team and go into befriending other teams. And like that competitive fire, that intensity that you're talking about that someone like Tommy Pham brings, that's like just kind of a wake-up call at times to remind younger players like, hey, there's a reason to kind of stay locked in, even if it's imaginary, to just kind of hate that guy because of that laundry he wears, because we are going to war against them and we want to beat them. And you got to kind of think of it in that way. Sometimes those veteran players, I was about to say older, and then that made me feel bad myself. Those veteran players, can bring that knowledge of like just having the right mindset can really just push you a little bit further in a game and get the best out of you when competing against them. I'm not saying like the Diamondbacks were letting up against opponents, but again, when you have a certain kind of mental toughness that you bring when you're competing, and you have somebody like Tommy Pham telling you its importance and kind of showing you the way there a little bit, I think it definitely can shape those young players to understand the importance of it. His experience is a lot that he brings. I also agree with what Mike said about like the effort that they're putting in. Like they are competing, but they're not just competing like on the field. They're competing for a spot. It's why I very much liked what Joc Pederson said about wanting to work with Dave McKay and wanting to improve on the things that people think he can't do any longer. He wants to be able to hit left-handed pitching. He wants to be able to play defensively. He wants to be able to do other things, right? So it's like he doesn't want to just be a guy that literally is just going to be used as a DH. He wants to contribute, and he feels like he still has, something left in the tank. Whether or not that happens, that remains to be seen. But I do like that attitude because I do feel like that's what someone coming into the situation needs to bring. There's a lot of young, talented guys on this team, and you're going to need to bring your best in order to be able to, I guess, contribute.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. I mean, I guess we should kind of talk about some of these guys.
Let's start with Tommy.
Yeah, let's go a little deeper on Tommy Pham here. His numbers from the 2023 season, he hit 256, 328, 446, 16 homers, 68 RBI, 1.8 FWAR when all was said and done. A few things that I will note on Tommy, as much as I think we all love the clubhouse fit. We love the character fit. Joc Pederson narratives aside, I do have some points I would make from a number standpoint that maybe don't go in his favor so much. Tommy was not quite as good with the Diamondbacks last year after the trade. He hit 241, 304, 415, had an OPS plus of 95, so he was a slightly below league average hitter after coming over to the Diamondbacks. He also bizarrely had reverse splits with the Diamondbacks. He actually hit only 230, 294, 361 against lefties after the trade. He was much better against righties than he was against lefties. And presumably his role, if the Diamondbacks did bring him in, would be to hit lefties. I mean, that would be kind of the sole reason that he would be with the Diamondbacks. The other thing I noticed is Tommy Pham as a DH last year was not nearly as good offensively as when he was in the field. And that's pretty extreme. He hit 153, 242, 256, an OPS right around 500 when starting the game as a DH, as opposed to starting the game in the outfield. And part of that could just be noise. Statistically, I wouldn't necessarily read too much into it, but I do think there could be something there. It is different just mindset wise, if you're a baseball player showing up at the yard and being in the field that day. I think it maybe kind of helps get you engaged throughout the game versus just kind of sitting on the bench the whole game and only stepping foot on the field when it's your time to hit. They are two pretty different things. So I wonder if there could be something to that for him where he prefers to play in the field as opposed to participate as a DH. I'm not sure how much opportunity he would get in the field if the Diamondbacks were to bring him in, because your outfield is pretty much full at this point, right?
Yeah.
Against I mean, I guess you could. I guess you could put him in the field. Now that I think about it,
there's going to be just not very many opportunities
against
right?
a lefty. You could play Corbin Carroll in center, and then Lourdes in left, and Tommy Pham in right.
Sure.
And then that's your method of getting Alek Thomas out of the lineup against a lefty. So there is a path here for him to play in the field. But I'm not so sure. I mean, the wording of Mark's tweet with the Diamondbacks looking for someone to pair with Joc at the DH slot, I'm not sure that they would be planning on using him in the field that much if this happened.
Right. Meanwhile, Randal Grichuk, it feels like based on his tweet there, like the best potential fit, mostly
in terms of hitting lefties.
In terms of hitting lefties, on what the Diamondbacks would actually be looking for there. He did play in the outfield quite a bit last season, so he's capable of offering that up as well. Well, let's take a look at his numbers from last year, because again, it's not like none of these guys really stand out head and shoulders above the other one. It's just Grichuk's numbers definitely vibe more with what the Diamondbacks are looking to do. He slashed 328, 388, 607 against lefties last year. Here, his total season numbers are: he averaged 267 with a 321 on base percentage, 459 slugging. He hit 16 home runs, 44 RBI, and a FWAR of 0.6.
Yeah, he's he destroys lefties, and that's it. there's not a lot more value that you're going to get from Randal Grichuk. I think he can play outfield in the corners. He did play some center field last year. I don't think you'd really want him playing center field. The metrics were not good there.
That's where his WAR is actually impacted negatively, is his defense, essentially, right? So
yeah,
and the Diamondbacks,
it's a net negative for sure,
right?
Yeah.
And you're not looking for necessarily a defender right now with this particular spot that you're looking for. I just think they would like some versatility. You don't want to just get a guy that all he's going to do is DH and potentially be a liability in the outfield. He did play 65 games in the outfield, but he didn't play those games essentially very well defensively.
Yeah. It was 65 games in left, 22 in center, and then 11 games at DH in 2023. So, I feel like Randal Grichuk, if you're just looking for, who's going to be the best get for you offensively, just someone who can destroy left-handed pitching, Randal Grichuk out of these three guys, I think would be the answer. He did struggle a bit with the Angels in the second half of the season. He was traded from the Rockies to the Angels at the trade deadline, and he only had an 80 OPS plus in the second half with the Angels after having a 120 in the first half. So his second half was not nearly as good. But even then, if you look at, I narrowed in on his numbers against lefties in the second half when he was in the Angels. His WRC plus, I don't have it in front of me, but it was like 135. He was still very, very good. Yeah. So Randal Grichuk against lefties, the best option of the three guys. He can play corner outfield. I think he's okay. He's good enough. Yeah. Not as good as Adam Duvall, I don't think, but can at least, step in if you need him to. I mean, if he's the guy that you have coming off the bench, if Joc Pederson is starting a game against a righty, the other team puts in a big left-handed reliever, and you're looking for someone to come off the bench and pinch hit in that spot, Randal Grichuk is a pretty good guy to have coming off your bench to face that tough lefty.
The advantage here he has above Duvall and Pham is his numbers against lefties, whereas Pham and Duvall both had reverse splits.
Duvall,
right?
yeah. Well, Pham he was slightly better against lefties than righties for the season, but he had heavy reverse splits with the Diamondbacks for whatever reason. And then, Duvall did have fairly significant reverse splits this past year, which is kind of bizarre. I don't think that holds for his career. My guess is it's kind of a one-year aberration, but it is a little weird. Adam Duvall had a 36.6% strikeout rate against lefties last year, which is actually very high. We were talking about JD Martinez's strikeout rate not that long ago, and he was in the lower 30s, and that was kind of a concerning number. So, I guess we can go to Adam Duvall, take a look at his numbers for the season. These numbers on the surface are pretty good. 247, 303, 531 slash line. Duvall hit 21 homers last year with 58 RBI, 1.9 wins above replacement. Looking at the surface numbers, Duvall actually had the best season out of these three guys last year.
Pedro has a great comment in regards to which of these guys you would want. He is all in on Pham because dude gave up an at-bat for his teammate to have a postseason moment. That's a guy I want on my team. And that's a really good point. Like, there is something to be said about that behavior. And again, when we go back to Tommy Pham being such a great teammate and why he's really liked in the clubhouse, it's things like that he did. The other thing about it that I really loved about that moment was how it first got misconstrued why he did it. It was like kind of blamed on Torrey for pulling him out of the game and putting Pederson in. But then like his response, his explanation was like, yeah, of course I wanted my dog Jace to get in that bat, right? Like, it's like there's something to be said about how like selfless he was in that moment. And there is also something to be said about keeping this team together as much intact as much as possible, considering what they did together last postseason.
Yeah.
There's no way to know if that's going to translate over to regular season success or them getting back to the World Series or even getting back to the postseason next year. You just know that guy brought something special, and you know that this team definitely connected in a way that allowed them to get so far, right? And there is one big glaring issue here, and I hate to address it, but if you do acquire one of these guys, does that instantly make Jake McCarthy expendable? Yeah,
Mike kind of alluded to this, and I think it kind of has to. I mean, you could have Jake as minor league depth. I mean, maybe, if he has just an extraordinary spring training, maybe there's a way to get him on the roster.
And
but
like Mike said, you're going to have injuries, right? So there's no way for you to go through a 162 game season and expect every single member of your roster to stay healthy. It's an inevitability that you're going to lose somebody, and Jake McCarthy would absolutely just rake in Reno until his time comes. And maybe this is the time where it finally translates over to the big leagues, where we can see him have some of that success offensively, up here at a major league level.
Yeah.
We've seen him do it before. It's just not in a whole season. It's just kind of been in spurts at times.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like, if the Diamondbacks did bring in, we'll just say it's Tommy Pham hypothetically. So at that point you would have on your opening day roster, you would have Corbin Carroll, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Alec Thomas, right? Your three starting outfielders, presumably. And then you would also have Jake McCarthy in this world that I'm kind of trying to imagine. Mm-hmm. And then you would have Tommy Pham, another outfielder. So you'd have a left-handed hitting outfielder, right-handed hitting outfielder. And then you'd have Joc Pederson, who maybe you don't want him to play outfield a ton, but it is something that he wants to prove to you, and he could at least be used in emergency situations. Like, at that point, you're looking at having 6 outfielders on the roster, which just seems over the top to me. I just have a hard time imagining, if you were to bring in one of these guys, how Jake would make any sense on this roster. We've already talked about how currently Jake's fit on the roster already doesn't really make sense. Like right now, when I'm playing with my lineups against righties and lefties right now, Jake doesn't show up in my lineup against righties, but he does in my lineup against lefties, at least sometimes, because Jake had better numbers last year against lefties than Alec Thomas. Yeah. But I mean, that's a weird situation. Like, are you going to have a left-handed hitting outfielder like play primarily against lefties and just be on the bench? Otherwise, it doesn't, the fit there just doesn't make any sense. And the solution in my mind always was to bring in a right-handed hitting outfielder and then, trade Jake McCarthy elsewhere. And I think that's could
what would happen here.
Yeah, and I think that could make sense for the Diamondbacks, because as Mike also said, there's some room to add to the bullpen here, and maybe a Jake McCarthy trade is an avenue of doing that.
Well, it is the best time to be a sports fan here in the Valley. Spring training is right about to start. We have the Waste Management Open. People running for their lives like they were. Like fire was raining down from the sky yesterday. It was great. It was hilarious. But of course, you got all sorts of great stuff going on, including the Super Bowl. But the Valley of the Sun will roar to life this spring when NASCAR returns to Phoenix Raceway, March 8th through the 10th. I cannot wait to go out there. I've never seen a NASCAR race in person before, but due to the proximity to my wife, who's a very big NASCAR fan, I've had to root for drivers and watch it, and I'm coming around. I've actually had a really good time, and it looks even more fun to go out to Phoenix Raceway because it was pretty epic when we were out there. They have the best in class fan experience, and it meets racing's toughest drivers for 5 days of action, all surrounded by the beautiful Estrella Mountains. So make sure
it is beautiful over there.
It's gorgeous out there.
It's a bit of a jaunt, but man, it is pretty cool.
But there, you know what there is on the way out there? There's a Circle K on the way out there. It's right by Phoenix Raceway. But whether you're a diehard racing fan or simply looking for a fantastic day out, this event promises fun for everyone, from live entertainment, fan hospitality areas, and an immersive infield experience, which looks like my kind of party. Also, make sure to check out all the other amazing things Phoenix Raceway has to offer, including a NASCAR experience you can get for your loved one, which I'm already saving up for my wife for her birthday, and so much more. So you can get your tickets to the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway, March 8th through 10th, and it promises a weekend of good vibes for the whole family. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com. And I talked about Circle K. It's right there. So it's like the only thing kind of right there for you to stop at, to fill yourself up, to fill your car up in that vicinity. And of course, that's because Circle K is everywhere in the Valley. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can find a Circle K near you, and it is America's thirst stop. So make sure to stop in, get yourself something to drink, fill up your gas. And if you sign up for their Inner Circle membership program for free right now, you can save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. And from what I saw driving in here, their gas is pretty cheap already. So make sure to save even more. You can stack their easy pay option on top of that. Get 35 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. And of course, save some money. Get buy 5, get a 6th one free on a selection of Circle K products and so much more. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Shout out to all of our diehard members for showing up last night for our first edition of Squeeze Play.
Yes.
Justin, our winner, congratulations to him on his free t-shirt from the PHNXlocker.com. But this is just some of the great content you get exclusively for being a diehard. So join us today over at GoPHNX.com. Of course, you get Jesse's content. You get all of our content from our writers. You get access to our Discord lounge, which is the best place to be an Arizona sports fan. You get a free t-shirt from the PHNXlocker.com, like this beauty I'm wearing right now. We are still a motherfucking wagon, by the way. Also, get all of your discounts with our partners and so much more, including discounts to our events. There it is. There's the shirt I'm wearing right there.
Can we still call that a new release? I don't know. It's been a little while now.
It's just what the lower say, Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse, stop.
Every shirt that we sell in the PHNX Locker is a new release.
Oh, man. Well, of course, get your membership today. Become part of our family. And speaking of family, there is a great new documentary or docuseries coming to Netflix in 2024. I'm excited because it's baseball. Not excited so much about the team they're covering, but Netflix will apparently follow the Boston Red Sox for a docuseries in 2024. Jesse's first question to me was, why? Why would they do that? Like, why have all the teams
that's elite content?
It is elite content. I told him, first of all, shooting docuseries at Fenway, right, from a production standpoint, is incredible. So that alone, they are a very popular team, but they're not very good. So that could make the narratives fun. I mean, yeah, you could choose the Dodgers, but I feel like access to the players are going to be kind of limited and such. You know, like there's a lot of good reasons to pick the Red Sox, but that's definitely not for success.
I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, they're in a very tough division that they really have there's not a great outlook for them for 2024. Yeah. So I guess maybe that's part of why you do it as the Boston Red Sox. Like, we ask, why would Netflix have interest in the Red Sox? Well, vice versa. Why would Red Sox have interest in being part of this? Well, part of it is because then it gets at least, you know, it's something positive for your team. It's something that people will enjoy watching entertainment wise. And it's going to bring you some new fans. There's going to be some people that are fans just because. My wife watched a documentary on quarterbacks, and she loves Patrick Mahomes now. Just because in the documentary he came off as being such like a likable guy, and she really just kind of became a fan of his, right? That can happen with stuff like this. But I again, Boston Red Sox, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I love how, speaking of baseball barbecast, our friends over at Cespedes Family Barbecue, their reaction to this on Twitter was, this is going to be like 30 hours of Lucas Giolito playing Rocket League. I can't wait.
Give it to
me. I'm
Give
here for that, too, personally. Rocket League, hours of endless entertainment. I do appreciate that if you're going to make something like this, you would maybe want it to be a team that is doubted a little bit entering the season, where there's potential for a comeback story kind of a narrative, right? If the Red Sox were to go far in 2024, that would be a big deal. And it would be something worth making, something like this about, much like if they had done this for the Diamondbacks last year. So yeah, like picking the Dodgers or whatever, that could be interesting too. I think you're right that, Shohei Ohtani would probably make like 2 appearances on the entire show or something because he tends to be pretty guarded in these kind of environments.
Just put a GoPro on decoy. That's all I want. Put it on his dog, and that's all I want. I mean, it's kind of funny that you say that because they filmed that movie Fever Pitch, the Jimmy Fallon movie, around the narrative of the Boston Red Sox being a bad team. And part of it was that they were going to film at Fenway during the playoffs, and the heartbreak of the Red Sox losing, which they felt was inevitable, was going to be part of the film. And they had to literally rewrite the movie because of the way that postseason run went for the Boston Red Sox, right? So, I mean, there is something to be said about that. All I can think about is how electric a docuseries about the Diamondbacks 2023 season would have been.
Yeah.
My God, when you talk about that underdog mentality, the like expectations not being very high, the drama, Jesse, with Madison Bumgarner. Oh my God. Could you imagine a documentary film crew following Madison Bumgarner around during all of that?
I don't know how on board with that he would have been.
Exactly. Doing slamming doors in cameras' faces and stuff. Like, they would have absolutely put all of that in the documentary. But then for them to go through like the ups and downs they went, the success they experienced, the low point, July, where it was like that all is lost moment in a story.
It does have like the perfect story arc. I mean, like things are
they just needed to win the World Series. That's the only part they needed for it to be the perfect story arc, right?
But yeah, I mean, like things were really good at the beginning. So you kind of get people into it. They're defying all sorts of expectations. They've got the best record in the National League, like into June,
and then a historic collapse.
And then a historic collapse. All of the Corbin Carroll injury scares, like those could all be their own little subplot.
Oh, him with the doctor, like him with I'd be on the edge of my seat, even though I know the outcome. I'd still be on the edge of my seat. Yeah, it'd be great. There'd be a lot there. But then, the whole playoff run, everything that happened with this team, the moment in the documentary series when Paul Sewald enters the clubhouse. I know it didn't happen like this.
I mean, I think I was there when Paul Sewald entered the clubhouse.
I was going to say, I imagine him kicking
sure
the door in, and everybody was like, Paul! That's what I imagine, but that's just because everything's a fairy tale in my mind. It would have been a great series to watch, but that's why we're making the movie. That's why me and Espo cast the movie, so at least we could try to relive some of that magic. But good luck, Red Sox, I guess.
Yeah, I still, it would be quite something if the Red Sox went far in 2024, but I don't think that's going to happen.
And I don't want that for my team. Like, I don't want that distraction around my Diamondbacks team this year, right? Like, keep that far away.
That's fair. And it does feel like the most likely outcome here is the Red Sox are going to win about 80 to 82 games again, and it's just going to be woo. I mean, I guess like something like this, I still think is worth doing, and we'll probably captivate. Boston is like, that's a great fan base for sure, even though they're not super happy with how things are going lately. So I'm sure some good things will come out of this, but still a bizarre choice for sure.
I mean, we did have the Hard Knocks season covering the Arizona Cardinals, so like we all lived through that. So this can't be harder to watch at times than that. But anyway, if you're looking to take an adventure, not just one on Netflix, check out what Arizona Lottery has going on. They're introducing a new unique ticket and promotion called Arizona Adventure, where there are 3 incredible ways to play it. Of course, you can play their lottery tickets that feature 3 iconic Arizona landscapes, but they also have their check-ins at geolocated adventures at 10 destinations across the state, not across the street. That would be on the other side of Van Buren. But you can check in at all sorts of geolocated adventure spots, from Flagstaff to Yuma. They have a self-guided adventures tour to 10 iconic Arizona destinations. You can check in at destination coordinates on the website. And of course, that gives you an opportunity to win a whole lot of money back from Arizona Lottery. They say the proceeds from ticket sales support environmental conservation, among other important initiatives across the state. And I can't say the word state, apparently. Arizona is not just about playing games and winning prizes. It's also about giving back to the state, said it there, and community. So visit azadventure.com for more information on how you can take an adventure with Arizona Lottery and for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes. And I absolutely love traveling across the state and staying in some of our smaller cities. There's just some incredible staycation opportunities here in Arizona. So it's one of those states that you can like go 2 hours and be in a completely different environment than where you were in, right? True. You went and chased snow on a mountain yesterday.
I did.
You did.
I did.
Justin went on his own adventure.
And I'm planning we're going to take a little podcast, a little PHNX D-backs beat trip. Me and Damon, you're not going to be invited, to Bisbee, because
I'm going to mute his mic.
Because we need to found the Bisbee Frisbees minor league baseball team.
That was my name.
Who was the one that told you about that ballpark, Jesse?
I'm the one that came up with the name Bisbee Frisbees.
Who's the one that told you about that ballpark?
I believe it's called Warren Ballpark. I'm very well read on the situation.
The oldest ballpark in America that's still hosts active baseball games. Again, these are facts that yes, Jesse.
Yes, they host old-timey baseball games. They all dress up in the old-timey gear. Yeah, it's great.
He makes me sick. Him and Damon leaving me out on their staycations.
It's our thing. You just don't get invited on the trips. It's just the way
I founded Damon's Dogs. There was no Damon's Dogs before me. I just want to put that out there. Well, a great way to take some of those adventures, of course, is getting some free bonuses from our friends at Desert Financial Credit Union. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union. And they, of course, can get you started on your home ownership journey the way they got me started on mine. You can look to Desert Financial for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. Join a credit union that is committed to you, to giving back to the community and sharing success with you, their members. When you open a free checking account online, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200 right now. Well, that's all we got for this week. It's not all we got for this week. Oh, no?
Because we're about to record an audio podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That will be unveiled on Saturday.
That's right.
So that is not it.
Do you want to tell people what we're talking about?
No.
Okay. You're just going to have, we're not even teasing you. You're just going to have to watch it to find out. No, we are talking about maybe some MLB players participating in the Olympics and what baseball would have to do in order to make that happen. But that would make baseball in the Olympics a lot more fun. That's for sure. So make sure to join us on our audio only podcast for that. This is our last week without baseball in our lives.
This is true.
Yeah. Pitchers and catchers report next week. Cannot wait for that. So make sure to tune in. We'll be going at 2:00 those days once pitchers and catchers report. That way we can be out there, Salt River Fields, and talk to Tori and all the players. In the meantime, you can make sure to follow us on Twitter. I'm at Cap_caveman with a K. This maniac next to me is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, it was Faj once again on the ones and twos today. You can follow Jacob at Jacob_Franklin4. Because once again, he's the fourth best Jacob Franklin known existence.
We get Damon back next week.
God, thank God.
Oh my goodness.
You do get Damon back.
Thank the Lord.
We really appreciate your help, Faj. Anyway, you can follow our show at PHNX.
That was too far. That was uncalled for.
No, I do really appreciate his help. He's a great guy. But anyway.
You don't get Damon back next weweek. It's actually, I'm going to make one of you sit behind the computer and make all of the stuff and get it ready and do the show.
I've been making all the shorts. Oh, we got Totri. Totri would be an electric producer, but he'd probably put the camera on himself for the whole show. We know that would happen. What was I at? Our show. Before I was rudely interrupted by Faj, and he wonders why Damon is better at this than him. You can follow our show at PHNX_D-backs, but of course, all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you, Faj. We appreciate Mike Ferrin for, like I said earlier, being a habitual line stepper. And we'll be back here on Monday with another Mailbag Monday episode, so make sure to join us for that. In the meantime, have a wonderful weekend. We thank you guys for stopping by. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it is so much more fun when you do a documentary about the Arizona Diamondbacks.
We all silly like the mayor.